Hello and welcome to AZAAZ. That's Ask Zenatta Anything About Zoho. This is Volume 1, Issue number 4. And I'm Brett Martin, coming to you from Zenatta Consulting.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and with us here we also have Greg Belknap and Josh Oliver, two of our foremost Zoho nerds, to answer all of your questions that you've asked us on YouTube, on our podcast, on Club Zenatta, really across any Zenatta-related avenue where a question could be asked. So I think with that, let us jump right into our first question. Alrighty, so this question comes from Chris Burns. He asked it on one of our videos, Email Workflows in Zoho Campaigns, over on YouTube. And Chris asked, for the response options, if someone opened and clicked on a link for an email, are they included in both opened and clicked? I set up a workflow using the response feature, but then set it up to send the same email to all of those buckets of people at different timing. I don't want to be sending duplicate emails. So this is kind of a common question when we get into doing those automated email workflows inside of campaigns. Essentially, the way that it works is it's all going to come down to what the delay timing is that you put on that response action, right? So let's say that you said to use a delay of 3 days. Right. Well, if they opened on day 2 and clicked on day 5, in the context of that workflow, they would go down the opened path, right? If you had a delay of 3 days. So it all just depends. And guys, I'm pretty sure if they click it later, it's not going to re-enter them back at that step, right? At that point, once the delay period's over, you're moving on and those future actions aren't going to send any duplicate emails.
That's right.
All right, next question here from Roseanne. After watching Zoho Recruit 2021 full product tutorial, asked, can you help me understand the applications module? It seems to be new since the tutorial and seems to be a mix of candidates and something new. Find it hard to understand why we need it and how to work with it. A pipeline in each is really confusing. So I was doing some research into this, and actually I don't have access to the applications module in my test account, but then I did some research and I found an article where it might be a demo or something that's in beta for some clients having early access to this. So I'm not sure what it actually is, but after doing some research, it looks like it's just a simple place to link applications to a candidate. Tyler, you were looking into this a little bit more. What did you find when you were looking into this?
I mean, what I saw is that, because if you think about it, you have candidates and you have job applications or job openings, right? But a candidate could apply to multiple different job openings at a single company. So this might basically be they're opening up that list, right? Because there's a list behind the scenes that exists now, right? That connects. It's a many-to-many, and it connects candidates to job openings. So I'm thinking this is they're kind of letting you do that, because there's kind of a design challenge with Recruit currently if someone is applied to multiple jobs, because you have the candidate status, but really that candidate status is per job opening, right? So I'm thinking this is them trying to like open up that data a little bit and let people track things on a per application basis.
But you would only ever have one application per job opening, or would a candidate be associated to that same job opening multiple times?
Be different job openings, right? Someone could apply to be a consultant and a developer at Zenatta, right? And they might be accepted for one, but not accepted for another.
Which is kind of how it already is set up. So I'm curious what the applications module would provide.
Or is it the other way where, like, if somebody is is it somebody making multiple applications to the same position? Like maybe you have a job opening that you close and open, and then somebody who maybe got rejected in the first round of hiring, but you said, hey, love to have you come back later, when we have more space available, and the person is applying now for a second time. Could be that. But I think regardless, it's definitely some linking module between candidates and job openings in some way, just which direction that linking is happening.
And maybe it has nothing to do with any of that, and it's like applications, third-party applications that are connecting. We don't know. We haven't been able to
so
get
it
a
looks
look
like
at it.
It looks, there is a doc here on their and the knowledge base for Recruit. It looks like it is for multiple job openings. So if you wanted to be able to apply to 2 job openings as one candidate, you can kind of assign that this way and enable that for them.
I'm sharing
So
my
that you only have to
screen
make
right
one
now.
application, right? So that, because otherwise somebody would have to go into Recruit. Somebody would have to someone would have to go to your open jobs page. They'd have to go in, click on the I want to apply for the developer position, fill everything out, then go back to that homepage and say, okay, now I also want to sign up for the consultant position. Let me fill all of that out. When I think the idea will probably be that the applications module would be, well, I want to apply for both of these jobs. And then, okay, we'll just give you a combination of all the unique questions that we need to ask you so that you don't have to fill out, your education information or your job history twice.
Freddie, can you share my screen? I'm not sure if that's, yeah, there we go. So I found this article, actually Tyler sent it over to me, but essentially there are some updates here. So within the applications module, there is like a nice little pipeline view for each of these applications. So you can see where they start and then certain checklist items. I'm not too sure what these checklist items represent. I'm guessing it's just the stage within the hiring process. So you can see qualified, associated, hired. So that's a nice little UI improvement. And then it looks like they also have some icons, yay or nays, to help with managing that hiring process. But just looking through this, it does seem kind of like it could probably just wrap into just the candidate record itself, or like Tyler was saying, this is just a linking module between candidates and job openings. So maybe it's just kind of separated out.
It's like the idea of, using a deal rather than tracking the sales process on a contact in CRM.
Yeah.
Right. Because it could happen more than once. Someone could apply multiple times to the same job opening, to different job openings.
True.
So it looks like they're kind of working to expand that tracking.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Roseanne, if we take this long to answer every question, this will be a very long show.
Then lucky you were the second question.
For the second question. And I'm just as confused as when we started, but I think we have some clarity. All right, let's go on to the next question. All right, Darcy is asking, I'm looking for recommendations for a field services program that integrates in real time with Zoho CRM. Darcy, this is a very, very easy one for us to answer. We recommend a program called Zuper, Z-U-P-E-R. It is fantastic. It has beautiful integration across the Zoho applications, especially with Zoho CRM. And it is a real FSM. They've thought it through. It's their only business. It's all they do. And it works exceptionally well. That being said, Zoho does have a FSM product that is it still in beta, guys? Do we know, or has it been released?
It's early access still.
Early access. It came out a couple of years ago. They kind of took it back. They're relaunching it. They're doing some work to it. Strangely enough, I don't believe it is integrating with the CRM yet. Is that correct? It's not.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
Very strange that there's a third-party app out there that integrates with Zoho CRM, and Zoho's field service management does not integrate with CRM. But that being said, right now, if you need it now, I definitely would go ahead and look at Zuper. It's probably going to be a little while before Zoho's is ready for prime time and has the proper integrations going.
Yeah,
Right.
I was playing with the Zoho FSM, and there is a really nice app, but like Brett was saying, there's no integration, and it's not included in Zoho One. So unless you want just a totally standalone FSM app, then you can check out FSM, but Zuper is, we've implemented it a few times, and we have a demo account ourselves, and it seems like a really nice application.
And Josh, you were saying that it's come a long way, the Zoho FSM, right? They've made a lot of improvement to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they have real-time tracking on an app, on a map, so you can track your field agents. There is invoicing through Zoho Invoice, calendar management, mobile application, and it seems pretty nice. But again, the last thing that's missing is just integration to the CRM.
fantastic. All right, Greg, this next one comes from Kevin Bacon.
Yes. So everybody, cut loose, foot loose, kick off your Sunday shoes. I use Zoho CRM to store customer information. I wish to store documents or files on behalf of our customers, for example, a list of passwords or an employment contract. I know I can have file fields on custom modules, but can I provide the customer with easy access to them? Are there any other aspects of Zoho One package that would assist with this? That is an excellent question, Mr. Kevin Bacon. I would say that you actually would want to use Zoho Work Drive rather than a file upload field. One, just because the file storage capabilities of the CRM are much smaller than if you are using Work Drive. And if you are using Work Drive, you can actually just share directly from Work Drive, or you can do something similar to what we have in our system. Is whenever we are creating a deal, we automatically create a shared Work Drive folder for that particular client, along with any relevant documents that we want to share with them. Then we take that shared folder URL and we keep that saved on a field in our system. And you could take that URL field and then have that be pushed into whatever portal it is that you're using, whether you're using the built-in CRM portal or you're using Z portals, or every time a file is uploaded, you could create a workflow that would schedule an email to go out to that contact with the link to their shared files. So that would be our recommendation. Use Work Drive and share the shareable link with them.
Yep.
Works. And you've made my day, Kevin, because now I'm just 1 degree of separation from Kevin Bacon. That's it. All right. Next question.
All right. So this one's come from Scott French after watching after reading our post on parallel transitions in Club Z. The question asks, in Blueprints, how many parallel transitions can you have in one transition? Is it limited to just 2 transitions, subtasks, or can I have 4 in one transition? Quick answer is yes, you can have up to 5. And for those of you who don't know what a parallel transition is, it's essentially just two paths to get to the same stage. So within Blueprints, you have stages and you have transitions to get to those stages. And so a parallel transition is just simply 2 ways to get to the same one, and you can have up to 5.
Like, for example, let's say that you have a deal that needs to move from, proposal stage to closed won or something, and you might have 2 different transitions. One is they have a one-time invoice, or a transition of they're going to do a recurring invoice, right? You still want to move from proposal to closed won, but you want different actions to happen on click of the button, depending on which path is being taken.
Yep. Exactly. So this one comes from David. Looks like a question posted over directly onto Club Zen. So he's asking, I'm trying to understand how I can pass the URL values of the site to an embedded Zoho form. It's quite clear how to append them when you're sending the form directly, right? Basically just sneaking those URLs into or those parameters into the URL, but a lot harder to do when a form is embedded on the website. So there's a couple things here that we can go over. So yeah, right out of the gate, if you're sending the form, like a link to a form in an email, this is super simple to do. If you want someone to click on a link and land on a page on your site, right, and then have the Zoho form capture those parameters, it's a little bit trickier, but it's definitely doable. So I'm going to pull up a screen share and we can kind of walk through how you would do this in practice. So I'm here in a demo account just using a Zoho form, and I'll go into share, which is like the last place you would think this would be, and then under track entries. And this kind of opens up their UTM tracking, tab here. And most of the time is going to be used for like programmatic or paid advertising, right? Google ads, Meta ads, where you're passing these things through. And so when I turn it on, you'll see by default, it's going to look for these kind of common parameters, right? But if I wanted to put a custom parameter here and have it look for that, that's totally fair game, right? So it doesn't actually have to be restricted to the things that this is built to look for. Now what you're going to need to do, take this tracking code, drop it on the website. You want to use the advance, no downside to using it, right? So drop this on the page. Most people put it in the footer so that it shows up on every page on the site, or at bare minimum, put it wherever you have these forms. Last but not least, that custom parameter, now it's going to basically get scraped, right, when they land on that page and filled into the form. And you just need to make sure to pass that into your CRM, right? So if I go ahead and say title here, you can just map that, right, wherever you want it to go on the CRM when they submit it. If that field is visible, then it will show as pre-filled. If it's hidden, then you can just use it to track these things behind the scenes. But one way or another, you can absolutely do it. You'll just need to use that track entries page under share, install the tracking code on the site, and then make sure that anything is mapped if you do want to integrate it back through to wherever you're going to send this data when the form is submitted.
All right. Hey, now we got a question from Alta Home Garages and More. Hello, I do see all my users' emails. However, my users are unable to see my email. I'm getting emails from my customers or leads. They do see emails that were sent by me, but can't see emails that were received by me. Any help would be greatly appreciated. So yeah, Alta Home Garages and More. There's a couple of things around this. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here real quick. So if you go back into the settings module and you click on email, there's a couple things to look at here. One, you're going to want to go into your email settings. Make sure, number one, since it's emails that are being received by you, make sure that this isn't saying that it's disconnected, okay? So however you're setting it up, you're going to want to make sure it's not disconnected. If it is, you might want to re-authenticate. So if you've changed anything, that could be a reason. If you're sending emails out of the CRM, those are going to show up, but maybe not necessarily, but you should have gotten an error on that as well if it's not authenticated. So I'm not sure that's the problem. But if you go down here to the bottom, my guess is you either have custom record level sharing or public or private turned on. If you have private only me, then none of those emails should show whatsoever. So you're really going to want to check this, but it could be used to have custom level sharing or private. If you're on public, then that opens it up to everybody. And also in that same, just kind of the next little tab over, you can go ahead and look at what the email settings are for your entire organization. One of the key things you'll see here is exclude domain. So what that means is if I were to set my emails to public, one of the things I might want to do is exclude Zenatta.com. That means emails that I'm sending within my own domain to people in my domain will not show up. So for example, talking some garbage about Greg to Josh and Tyler, I don't need him to see that. So I basically,
all right.
I just want to go ahead and exclude that. To me, I think that, guys, I don't know if you look at that or not, but I think that's pretty much the only thing it could be as to why those emails aren't showing up in the CRM. I mean, you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I bet you a nickel is just set to private. That's the default, and you can see your own when it's set to private. So yeah, that's got to be what it is.
Sometimes if your password updates or something happens within Google or Outlook, you might need to re-authenticate your account. I've seen that happen if your password updates and it just totally breaks the connection. So just make sure it's connected and you get that little success message at the top of the page. You should be good.
This one comes from Callie Isel. This is from our ChatGPT integration for Zoho Click via a custom bot. This is from our Club Zenatta postings in our code share. This asks, do you have any videos on how to implement a bot for Click to ask a question of the week to create community? I know Slack has the capability for things like this, and I haven't been able to find anything on this for Zoho. Please help. We don't have a video on this one specifically. However, if you were wanting to use since this was on the ChatGPT post, I'm assuming that they would like to be able to implement something using that. You could recreate, you could repurpose the code that we shared in the GPT bot one to actually be on a scheduler instead of being a bot specifically. So I have pulled up on my screen. And we'll include links to these pages in the description of the video as well. But you can create a scheduled function in Zoho Click. They call it a scheduler. You get to it by clicking on your display picture, selecting bots and tools, and then there is this schedulers option, about midway down on the left-hand side, and you'll create your function in there. And so we have the message chat GPT functionality is somebody sends it a message, it takes that input, generates something, and then spits it back out to that person. You could just as easily, in this scheduler, take that same code, but rather than needing to pull in a message from a user, you could simply hard code a prompt in of, give me a fun icebreaker question for a corporate meeting, or something like that, and then have ChatGPT spit that thing back out at you. Then, rather than just returning it to any specific user, you could post that response to a community channel, some common thread that all of your employees share. So, yeah, kind of just depends on what level of engagement you're looking for, how you want people to engage with that. If you were not looking for using AI to generate those questions and you wanted to generate those questions yourself, then the other option is you can use a thing called databases. You can go to it. It's in the same spot as the schedulers by clicking on your display picture and then clicking on bots and tools. And then right below schedulers, there's something called databases, where essentially you can create custom modules inside of Click that are just for holding little pieces of data. And you could create a database that's just a list of, 100 questions that you come up with, and then your scheduler would just grab, the next question on the list once a day to throw that out to your teammates. So, yeah. Anybody, Brett, any thoughts?
Otherwise,
on that?
an alternative to that is just go in once a week. Your first question should just be why, with a question mark. And then a week later, why, Lord, why? And then maybe throw in a really, and just see what kind of responses
And then
you
a
get.
curveball like a why not?
Why not? Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
Not with a period,
Very
though, with
good.
a question mark. Yeah. A lot of questions around that. Other than that, I think Greg probably had the best answer.
I would say so. He generally does. Alrighty, next
Usually.
question here from Video Dude. This was asked actually on our last episode of AZAAZ. What is the purpose of the name mandatory field in each of the Zoho CRM modules? After all, there is a record_ID field that is generated on the back end. I see you are a fellow nerd. Why is this name field needed? So good question. I mean, in some ways it's kind of arbitrary, but it serves one major purpose, I would say, even for records that don't have a proper name. And it's to give it something that shows up. If we're going to link it in a lookup, give it something that shows up so that we can have a name to click through on a related list, right? Things like that, that do kind of help to have a more user-friendly name, right? The record ID is just a long string of letters and numbers. What I will say, though, as a tip is if you don't care about the name for a module, which is totally reasonable, right? Let's say we build a web inquiries module, right? And every web form is going to write there. We don't really need a name for that. We'll just have that name field set to be a auto number. You can do that when you initially create the module, and you can essentially give it a numbering sequence and a predecessor and successor phrase, right? So if you wanted SO-123, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? You can kind of move on through that way just using auto numbers. But yeah, I would say that's kind of the solve, right? It just, Zoho systematically needs something to call it that it's going to show the user. And it's kind of nice to use something a little more user-friendly than the record ID.
Yeah, it is.
A quick little PSA.
Cool. All of us have
We
something
all
now.
have something to say.
Yeah. Josh, you go first.
Okay. So a little PSA, if you do want to use a auto number field, you have to do it before you save the record. Otherwise, you have to delete the module and recreate it entirely. I've ran into that issue quite a few times. So if anticipate the need of an auto number and make sure you change that as soon as you open up the module editor.
Like the first thing you do, you make the module.
First thing you do.
And one of the things we'll often do in those cases is create another section down below the record. We call it record data, and just move all the stuff you can't get rid of down there. So, because you really don't want to see that auto number 99.9% of the time. You just want that clean, so you can kind of clean it up that way as well. But that only came out, was a couple years ago, guys? 3 years ago? The auto number?
The auto numbering.
Yeah, prior to that, it was a real problem. I mean, it was a real pain. So, good question.
Yeah. And one fun thing about the auto numbers is that there are also a few merge tag options with the auto number, like prefix and suffix. Like you can put like the created time, for example, in the auto number. So like if you're like, well, I don't know, I don't really want just things starting at 1 or even like 1,000. I like things to like, it just looks weird when you have a bunch of records that start with 1 to 10. But yeah, you could have the auto number have like a little prefix and then like the numbers for like today's date. And then the auto number.
Is that a new feature? I don't know if I've seen that.
It is kind of new. They snuck
number
it in without telling anyone, Josh. But you can do some like merge tags into the auto numbers now. It's a little limited. It's not like everything, and it's not super dynamic. But you can actually do some like merges.
Well, I learned something too on the show as well.
Just like little tweaks.
Great.
Do a little hash symbol in the prefix or the suffix next time you're making an auto number, and you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see.
And I would recommend the prefix of why, Lord, why, hyphen, and then just put the number in. It's a good one. Little throwback. Little throwback there. All right, next question.
Little throwback to 3 minutes ago.
Man, I'm getting old. That's about as far back as I can remember. All right, Denise, a freelancer. Oh wow, if you are is it Dennis? Dennis, if you are a freelancer, in fact, what a great appropriate name. You were born for this. That is amazing. Hey, you're asking me, would you recommend using Zoho Learn as a general knowledge base or the knowledge base in Zoho Desk? You know, this is a really interesting question because I just had a call prior to this where I was talking with someone and they have decided that they love using Zoho Desk as their internal knowledge base. They don't even have a help desk, but they have Zoho One and they just like the knowledge base inside of Zoho Desk. So they've adopted that because we were talking about Zoho Learn. They're both great. I mean, you could use Zoho Desk with that. It's kind of, it works. Zoho Learn is more for your internal. And if everybody's, in your company's on Zoho One and you've got it, then Zoho Learn, which is their internal LMS or just for your company, is going to be great as well. And it's got a lot of features. I'm going to kind of kick this over to, Greg and Josh. You guys live in Zoho Learn. You do a bunch there. We also do a lot in Zoho Desk. I mean, it seems to me it's basically your preference, but you do have, I guess you have advantages to both, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So Zoho Learn has an advantage in terms of the like certifications or your ability to create courses, right? That's really where Zoho Learn shines, is that you can create lessons with different styles of content, quizzes, which then you can have lots of different reporting on to track people's progress. So in terms of like being able to evaluate your employees, Zoho Learn is really great. And also if you just like using Zoho Writer and everything like that, it's just great to use Zoho Writer in there. Where Zoho Desk has an advantage is in Zia's capabilities of being able to like recommend articles within there. As of right now, Zoho Learn doesn't really have anything like that for, I see you're working on this and this. Did you know that we have some articles about that could help you? Learn unfortunately doesn't have anything like that, but Zoho Desk it does, right? So if you were to if you did your now you would also have to do like your task management as tickets in Zoho Desk, which that starts to get a little weird. But if you did, then Zoho Desk could recommend to your employees, hey, if you're working on this thing, you might want to read this.
Yeah, I mean, for support requests and support tickets, I definitely recommend using the knowledge base inside of Desk. And then also that knowledge base. So Zoho Desk has a lot more integrations because you can integrate that knowledge base with Zia. You can also integrate it with Sales IQ. So if a customer asks a specific question, then you can recommend specific suggested articles straight through the little pop-up at the bottom right of your screen. So Zoho Desk does win on integrations. I think Learn, if you're doing something that's like internal standard operating procedures or just an admin handbook or an employee handbook, sort of those type of things, that's best in Learn. And then, like Greg was saying, the certifications is another really cool feature in Learn that Desk does not have. So maybe you just decide what needs to go in which, but there's definitely pros to both of them.
It's a different use case, right? The knowledge base in Desk is designed to be used customer facing to answer questions for your customers, serve up info for them, right? The suggestions like Greg is talking about, which is great in Desk. And then you can just click on an article and it pastes it into your ticket response. It's beautiful the way it works. But yeah, if it's internal, most of the time you should be thinking Learn, right? That's kind of the default place that you'd be putting your internal.
If Zoho could make it so that Zoho Learn and Zoho Desk could talk to each other, that you just had one central repository of information, that would be. This is I'm praying to the Zoho gods. Please let that be a thing.
One thing that Learn is still lacking is an API. There's no API to hit Zoho Learn, so that would be very nice. Yeah,
we'd love to though.
All right, again from Dennis to Freelancer. By the way, I'm jealous, Dennis. You know, I was on Ancestry.com and I went back and I looked, and our last name used to be Consultant, and my great-great-great-grandfather, his name was Zoho. So if I'd been named after him and they hadn't changed our last name, it would have worked out. Anyway, you're asking, is there a plan to integrate Zoho Learn with Zoho People or Desk? Well, as we just kind of talked about. So Zoho People has...
We don't know.
Zoho People actually has its own LMS, so that's not going to happen, and it pretty much is Zoho Learn. So if you're in Zoho People, you have your own LMS just for everybody in Zoho People. So that's already, it's not integrated, but it's standalone. And like Josh said, no API. And I don't think you would do it with Desk because, as we just talked about, Desk has its own knowledge base. It's got its own thing going for it. It really wouldn't make a lot of sense. So to my great-great-great-grandfather, Zoho Consult, you know, if you'd only been here, if you'd only been here.
What is happening?
Yeah.
And let's get on to that next question. I think this is for you, Greg.
It's your turn, Greg.
Yes. Sorry, I have to recenter myself. My brain's been thrown for a loop by just listening to your ramblings. All right, this comes from Club Zenatta. The post title lists all invoices that have been paid with retainer invoice credits. Labiol Balili asks, can anyone show me a workaround of how to get a list of the invoices in Zoho books that have been paid with retainer invoice credits, or the list of retainer invoices and invoices that these retainers have been applied to? I would prefer the first option because this way I can filter with the invoice date. Gonna have to lower your expectations right now. There's not quite a way to get like a nice filterable view with this. However, if you did want to be able to see just the list of retainer invoices for a particular client or the credits that have been applied to any invoices, you can create a custom related list using Deluge. So I have on my screen, there is a help article that, of course, we'll have the link to in the description for adding custom related lists, which you can basically you can grab the information from a record that you're currently looking at, and you can then you'd be able to use that to search Zoho books, with zoho.books.getrecords or get records by ID, whatever it is. Get the lists of all the relevant data. Then they have an example here of how you can format that data in a language referred to as XML, which Zoho just has. They have some stuff on the back end that knows how to take these sets of sort of tags and take what's the data in between them and then display it as a nice table underneath your CRM record. We've used these custom related lists in implementations all the time. The nice thing about them is that because they are run by a function, the function runs every time you load the record page. So you're always getting the most up-to-date information, which is nice. The one downside is that the information, the data is only being grabbed when you're looking at it. So it's not something that shows up in like CRM reports or anything like that. But if you're just looking to see the information, then creating a custom related list would be the way to go.
Yeah, I think we learned about XML custom lists maybe a year and a half ago. And ever since we learned how to do it, it's been a go-to implementation for a lot of these random. Yeah, it's such a great
tool.
tool.
The data where you need it for so much less work, when we don't need to like sync it, like and create a record, we can just like peek.
You don't have to set up 14 different workflows to like, if anything changes anywhere, that it, updates all the data. You're just seeing it. You're seeing it fresh every time,
right?
Which is always
Isn't that our main integration, guys, for like QuickBooks Online when people want to see those invoices, just a straight up XML related list?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have QuickBooks. QuickBooks integrates with analytics, and then you just do an XML related list from analytics into the CRM. And you can also add links, hyperlinks. So maybe you want to click a hyperlink, and that'll open up the invoice record or whatever record you're looking at. That's also very doable. So Aaron Siverd asks, after watching Email Workflows and Zoho Campaigns 2022, can a contact enter into a campaign's workflow using a Zoho survey as the trigger? And yes, absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen because this is kind of a multi-step process, and I'll walk you through what we need to do. You don't have to use a Zoho survey. You could use a Zoho form or even another outside third-party survey tool. It doesn't really matter, but that survey needs to integrate with the CRM. So I'm just going to show this demoing with Zoho survey. So in this case, we have a simple contact us survey. So you're putting in the first name, last name, and email address. And this survey integrates with the CRM using into the contacts module. And so these fields are integrating, but I also have another field inside of that contact that says enter campaigns workflow. And it's simply just a pick list field. The only options are either yes or no. One thing you might not know is whenever you're integrating to the CRM from survey, you can actually just put in direct values. You don't have to pull in a field that's inside of the survey. So in this case, I'm just saying anyone who submits this, we are going to, yes, enter them into that campaign's workflow. So what this looks like inside of the CRM, we have a contact record. Enter campaigns workflow is just a pick list value. And that's all you really need. So now we can go into campaigns. And the first thing we want to do is make sure that that field is syncing into campaigns. So we're going to come in, go into the sync settings. Again, you just click on contacts, Zoho CRM, but there's a contacts sync services. Zoho CRM, and then you click on contacts. You're going to edit this, and then we want to just click next. That'll bring us into the field mapping. And you'll notice I don't have that field mapped yet, so we just need to click Map More Fields. And I'm going to find that field that I have. So enter campaigns workflow. it doesn't already exist in Campaign, so I'm just going to click New Field, Add, and then Initiate. Now that field has been added, and I can create a segment based on that field. So then I'm going to go to Contacts, Segments, and I'm going to create a segment. So this is just going to be called Enter Campaigns Workflow. That's going to be based on a field called Enter Campaigns Workflow. Is yes. Now that the segment's created, now the contact probably hasn't synced in yet. It's going to take a little bit for that sync to happen. But now that this segment exists, I can modify or create a new workflow that's based on a segment or a contact entering into a segment. So let's just choose a simple follow-up series here, and I'm going to use this template. Instead of doing an on-form submission, which you could create this out of a campaigns form and just have them directly enter it. So that's might be the easiest way if it's just a simple contact us form. But a lot of people like to use Zoho surveys or Zoho forms for their UI and its integration to other services. If you didn't know, Zoho Campaigns does offer forms, but they are very limited in their integrations to other services. And the theming is pretty limited as well. So in this case, we're just going to remove that trigger and we're going to have it enter based on entering a segment. And then we just choose that segment, enter campaigns workflow. You might want to rename that to be something more specific. And then choose the contacts who you want. You can either do the existing or new contacts, only new or only existing. Let's say only new. Now it's done. Whenever you're ready, just click activate and you are good to go. So again, you can do this with any survey tool as long as it's syncing into CRM, and then sync that field from CRM into campaigns and generate that segment. If you wanted to know a little bit more about these sign-up forms directly inside of campaigns, you can also just go hover over contacts, do sign-up forms, and then you can create a sign-up form based on a template. So they do have a few in here. One reason why I don't like using sign-up forms is the name. They don't have an option to split up the name field into a first and last name. It's just the full name. So whenever you are trying to merge in just the first name, or you want this contact to sync into CRM, it becomes challenging because you aren't presented with their full name delineated by the space. It's just their full name. And that would have to feed into the last name field inside of the contact record, which can mess up some data, and it's just kind of ugly looking. So if it's very basic and it's just a campaign sign-up letter, then you can stick with this and maybe just ask for their email address and assume that they aren't going to be syncing into the CRM. But if you want them to show up in the CRM, then I recommend using survey or forms, updating a field, and then syncing from CRM into campaigns. So
that's almost always our recommended never really ever use the campaign forms to populate anything in campaigns, right? Always use Zoho forms, go to CRM, because you can do so much more with it there. Your segmentation, your list, all that kind of stuff. It's just,
yeah.
Nice answer. All right. Moving along.
Yep. This one comes from Dan Aram on Cody's tip of the week, talking about managing accounting and physical stock levels in Zoho inventory. Dan asks, have you guys had luck in pushing inventory levels to CRM? I would love to create my POs in CRM while syncing to the financial modules. Knowing accounting levels at the CRM is something I've seen many struggle with. And I think we may have discussed this on a previous AZAAZ episode, but yes, unfortunately, natively, your stock levels do not sync over into the CRM. So it kind of depends on, so how we proceed from here depends on what information it is that you're really looking for and kind of at what scale. Because if you just want to be able to look at a if you want to be able to open up a CRM product and check and see what are the stock levels, then I would recommend an XML related list like we've discussed before, right? That you can, as soon as you open up that product page, a little function will take that CRM ID, search for that product in books, and then pull in all the information, because you can grab stock levels by API call to Zoho Inventory, and then you'd be able to display it down there. If you need that data sitting in the CRM for some reason, like you wanted to create a CRM report based on those numbers, then you would need to set up a scheduled function to, again, pull those numbers via API and then, write them into those fields. But I imagine that probably what you would really like is to be able to see if you are, now you say you're creating your POs in the CRM. I guess the question is, are you creating Zoho CRM POs, or are you creating Zoho Books POs through the Zoho CRM to Zoho Finance integration? I hope it's with the integration, in which case you should be able, like if you jump into Zoho Inventory, you should be able to see the stock levels as you're adding line items to a PO. But if you're talking about, if this is just about like ordering alerts or things like that, then I would say you could set up a scheduled function to check if anything is below its reorder point, to then send you a notification to let you know, hey, we need to order more of this or more of that. So all in all, unfortunately, you're going to have to do custom coding and hit some records via API request.
Alrighty, so let us jump into our next question here. This one comes from Mike Halper on, looks like he made a post on Club Zenatta titled Contact Roles in Deals from Custom Modules. So in AZAAZ Volume 1, Issue 3, we answered a question about a solution involving deals, getting notes from contacts that are not part of an account to appear with notes from contacts in an account. That solution could actually work well for me, except that he's got contacts in a custom module that he created, which is really common, right? Some people keep contacts clean for like their prospects and customers and put like a third-party contractor or something in a different module. So that's totally fine that you did that. But now when I go to add contact roles to the deal, I can only see contacts that are actually in that proper contacts module. I've been unable to find a setting that allows me to retrieve contacts from a different module. Is that possible? So no, it's not possible using the contact roles module as it stands, because it's pre-baked to look at that contacts section, right? That primary module. But there's nothing to say that you couldn't create your own version of that contact roles. You would create what we would call a linking module. It's basically a record that has a lookup on both sides, right? So on one side, it would be looking up the deal. On the other side, it would be looking up to your custom module where you have these contacts saved. And then you could just add those from within your deal. Benefits of having it, honestly, is you could actually add as many custom fields as you want. So you could actually define what the nature of that contact's engagement is on that deal. Are they the decision maker? Are they the financer? XYZ. But that would kind of give you that same data structure using your custom module, so that you don't have to kind of blend everything together.
Okay.
Tyler, question for you. You had mentioned it's okay to create a separate module for contacts. I kind of thought we felt that best practice is always just use the contact module, just create a field in there that filters them out by the type of contact they are, because you can always use a custom view to look at them that way. And that always avoids these kind of problems. Do we feel though now that there are times when a custom module for contacts is best practice or okay?
It depends. I mean, like most of the time using the native contacts is a best practice if they're going to need to show up in other Zoho applications, right? So like it's nice if you're going to use desk, right? Then you probably want them as contacts. If you're using books, right, to invoice, you want them as contacts. But yeah, I mean, Outside of that, it's not like the end of the world to have them in a custom module. Some people just strongly prefer it so they can keep things separate, right? And like totally carve them out of like their active, prospect or customer base. But there are some like native things, right, that are kind of nice in that native contacts module, especially if there's accounts, right? Like if you had 3 contractors who are all part of the same contractor firm, having that nice account roll up to see all their tasks and emails is definitely a value add.
Yeah, maybe
Like,
you
I
have
remember-
a permissions issue where you don't want certain users to be able to see records in this or this type of contact. So that could be a reason why you want to split them up into a separate module. If you do want to split it up into a separate module and you want to do the linking module route to connect these to a deal, I recommend adding a multi-lookup field to the deal. And then when you add that multi-lookup field, you click the create linking module option. It's going to give you a better UI whenever you're actually assigning contacts to the deal. You can just click assign and then choose your contacts. But if you do the link, if you do like a manual linking module where you create a module and you have 2 lookup fields, it's a lot more manual entry where you have to create a association and then you have to add the contact. And so it becomes a little more tedious if you do want to do it that way. But
yeah,
you are limited to the number of multi-lookup modules you can have on a module.
And then if you go back to our discussion on like the name field for custom modules or auto number generation, then when if you go to create the module first, then whatever the name, or if you use an auto number, the auto number is what will be like the display value on that related list. So it might not be you might not be able to clearly show what the content of the relation is. So a multi-select lookup would probably be a better option if you have one available, if you haven't already used one. Because you can only have 1 per module. Or is it 2?
It might be 2. I don't
think it's
remember
2.
though. It might be 2.
All right, our next question comes from Greg McTeer Smith. This was over in Club Z, and the title of his post was Subscription Differences. Greg asks, I'm trying to understand the pricing side of things. When you sign up for the Zoho One Suite for a monthly fee, does that genuinely give you all the apps? I ask as I came to set up campaigns and it was suggesting further costs based on my contact numbers. Is this correct? And does that affect any of the other modules? It's a great question, Greg. So for the most part, of course, you don't get all the apps. You get all the apps in the Zoho bundle. And if you get those apps, for the most part, those applications are the enterprise version of that Zoho application. It's usually the highest version they have or the second highest version that they have of that application. So for CRM, you're getting enterprise, not ultimate, but most people only need enterprise anyway. Campaigns is a tricky one in that the way they're pricing that is when you sign up for Zoho One, you get 5,000 base users, and then for every person you add, you get every person who's part of your Zoho One universe, you get another 5,000. So out of the gate, if you were just what they call a solopreneur, a single person using Zoho One, you would get 10,000 users, 10,000 contacts that you could email to out of Zoho campaigns. So if you have 10 people in your organization, you're going to have 55,000. It's going to be 5,000 for the 10, and then 5,000 kind of just because you're signed up for Zoho One to begin with. It's changed. So where it gets tricky is you will need to purchase additional groups and bundles of contacts for Zoho campaigns. Now, Zoho One used to be $35 per user per month. It's now $45 per user per month. They've only had one price change in the history of the app. It was a reasonable one. The strange thing is it's about $35 to buy an additional 5,000 users. So back in the day, it would kind of make more sense just to add more users to your Zoho One that you might just need down the road because the pricing was extremely similar when you did that. Now, it's not the case now. It's more of a sliding scale. 5,000 does cost you $35. Another 10,000 cost you about $65. So you're getting a little bit of a discount there. So the more you need, it's going to kind of scale down a little bit. So as you're looking at that, it might be worth making a decision, especially if you're not on the Zoho One all employee pricing, but you're on that kind of a la carte pricing where you're say I've got 50 people in our organization, but only putting 25 of them on, Zoho One. So you're paying $105 per user per month rather than 45. There comes a break even. Now you're like, oh man, we've got a lot of campaigns we've got to run. Might just be best to put everybody in your organization on Zoho One. So there's some math to do there as you kind of go through campaigns. But for the most cases, the rest of the Zoho apps, you are getting the full enterprise versions. You still have to buy things. It's kind of the same as if you bought the standalone app. If you were to buy the standalone campaigns app, you're basically choosing the number of contacts that you're going to want to email to out of the gate. And then as you add to it, you're going to have to pay more for that down the road. So yes, you do get full versions of all of the applications. Campaigns falls in that really little bit of a gray area there, though, for a lot of people.
I'd say the only other application where people can incur like additional fees can be Zoho Sign if you're using it highly automated and very heavily. They do end up having, I think they give you up to like 500 automated documents for a rolling period. And then on top of that, there are some incremental fees, but most people never go over that limit.
Yeah, but they're not really penalizing Zoho One users. The same thing with like Zoho Sign. You've got API credits you have to buy if you're automating. You would have to do that if you just bought Zoho Sign by itself as well.
Exactly. Or DocuSign or Adobe Sign or any of those other guys.
This one comes from the Right Price Real Estate Group, who were watching the CRM Zen show this last week. Pick a card, any card. And this was in a live stream chat. So you know that these guys are like, they're super fans because they're watching us live. So we love those guys. Right Price Real Estate Group is asking, can the bots be integrated to handle company type specific questions? I own a real estate brokerage, so some knowledge in that area would be nice. Or can the bot be integrated with real estate bots? And here, since this was CRM Zen show, pick a card, any card, they must be talking about the blended conversations. That was the topic of discussion on that show. So blended conversations are, combining, Zobots with agents. And the bots can either be configured to be run on ZIA or be run via a guided conversation, which is a new feature that they've added to Zoho Desk. The guided conversations are defined entirely by you. There is no AI in that. Those guided conversations are meant almost more like, they're almost meant more as like forms, like dynamic forms that a customer could interact with to fill in, their information, or if you're reaching out to support for like an existing ticket, that they could put in their ticket number or something like that. Whereas the other side, you could have a ZIA bot that will try its best to understand what your customer is looking for. If your customer types in something like, hey, I need help on an order, then the ZIA bot might be able to offer an option of like, oh, I see you mentioned orders. Are you talking about replacing an order, returning an order? And then it could, it's making its best guess as to what your customer wants, and then sending that information back to the agent. But there's not, and this is still an early access thing, the blended conversations. So we haven't actually been able to play with it yet. We still only have just the guided conversations module that was added, a couple of months ago, whatever it was. But as far as I can tell, there is no particular industry customization for those bots, other than something that we've discussed before. That ZIA bot, because this is talking about desk, it is familiar with your knowledge base. So I don't know if the ZIA bot is able to sort of take your knowledge base into account when it comes to answering questions, but at least it would be able to suggest articles if somebody was just looking for help versus if an agent needed to step in. So sorry to take the long way around to saying no, but
Answer bot, the answer bot's probably your best bet because that can actually query against your knowledge base and kind of serve stuff up. It's not going to be a chat GPT like experience, and it wouldn't be able to like easily reference like MLS information, like any new listings near me, right? Things like that. But it could answer things about your process or the neighborhoods you work with or those things if they're loaded in your knowledge base.
Yeah, speaking of which, something that people might not realize is that ChatGPT only has information up to, I believe, currently it has data as far as July of 2021 is like the information that it has in its its data sets that it's encompassed over time. Of course, that number's going to get higher, but basically there's nothing really to indicate that ChatGPT is going to be able to have like current today information for you.
Sweet. Alrighty, one last question here to wrap things out. This is actually a follow-up question on our CRM Zen show in the live stream chat. So Angel Firm asked, can clients approve designs? This is about, this is actually a follow-up, so it's about the Zoho Social Agency Edition. Can clients approve designs? Are there brand calendars? And can we tailor posts specific to each platform and have it give suggestions? So in short, Angel, yes, 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 and no. You can absolutely use the agency version to invite clients in and have them approve designs. You can even kind of comment, tag them, and kind of go back and forth there. There are brand calendars that you can manage discreetly for each of the clients that you have in your agency. You can definitely tailor the post according to the platform. I don't know, guys, if you can like do all of the posts at once that way. You might need to like schedule each one on different platforms if you want like different images and text to go out. The only thing I don't think it does is give suggestions on content. It can give suggestions on when to post based on engagement for previous posts. Obviously, that would take some time to get good, right? It's gonna run some posts at some weird times initially if you have it do that. But you can have it suggest what time of day might work based on that brand and platform.
I read this slightly differently on the and give suggestions, as in you're creating a post and you want suggestions from your company. You do have the collaboration thing there. So if it's you're writing the post and you want suggestions on the post and input on the post, you can actually have a collaboration on posts. You can put them on the calendar. People can work on them. You can have approval. Yep. But it could be what you're thinking too, Tyler. I don't know. I mean, I punted this question to you because I wasn't sure. But now that I'm rereading it, I don't know. Maybe that's it. It's a couple ways.
Definitely, you can gather suggestions from others in the team. It can suggest time of day. It just wouldn't suggest, to my knowledge, anything about the content. Like, hey, you're about to post this image on Instagram, but it's a bad aspect ratio. I don't know that it would do something like that. But the rest of these, it should work pretty great.
By the way, Angela, it does actually have one thing that'll suggest if you put a post up and it just doesn't like it, it'll come up and it'll say, "Why, Lord? Why?" But other than that,
oh my God,
yeah,
that's all.
This
is my nightmare. We're trapped in like a parallel.
I can't help myself. I'm unhinged, man. I'm unhinged. Hey, I want to give a shout out to our producer, Freddie, who is down with the COVID, but still hanging in there and producing the show today. Thank goodness for drugs, Freddie. Just make sure you buy them from a reputable pharmacy. Don't need you going down with any fentanyl, poisoning or anything like that. So stay clean. Everybody, thanks so much for watching AZAAZ. Ask Zenatta anything about Zoho. If you want to get in contact with us, please head over to zenatta.com and click on Book a Meeting. We'd love to talk to you.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes of our podcast, the CRM Zen Show, where we cover all the news in the world of Zoho every single week. If you want that news delivered to your inbox, please do subscribe for our newsletter. And as always, we'd love if you would subscribe to us here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice.